Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast. We had a bit of some technical difficulties, but we are here, and thank you guys so much for missing us, if you will. I mean, we are back. We had a nice little week off. We've been going, weeks, if you will, straight. So we're just like, we're just going to take a week off. So it was nice, and it was nice to come back to the Rockies. By the way, there's nothing wrong with Jordan. He's just trying to recover from the fact that the Rockies swept the Marlins, over there. But
what a disgrace! What a disgrace!
But it's gonna be a lot of fun. We have a great show lined up for you. It's gonna be the early look, if you will, early look into training camp. And so we're going to look at the training camp position battles. And there was a certain running back news that broke, a couple hours before, which, again, thank you so much to the NFL and the Broncos, just in general, for not breaking this news during the show, although there might be that particular news breaking during the show. You never know. But, it's always nice, that we come prepared a little bit, knowing the fact that there was some breaking news a couple hours before. But, yeah, nonetheless, how you guys doing? Brandon, doing good?
I'm doing well. I am just busy, but I'm doing good. I've been just kind of waiting eagerly to be able to enjoy a Broncos game again, and I just realized that I will be actually coming back from a wedding on the first week of the first game of the season, and I don't know how I'm going to watch it, and I've been trying to figure that out because I might be on a plane, but I will figure this out because I need my Broncos fix. But doing well.
Labeled it sensitive content. Okay. Yeah, that's a callback to my Twitter account. Apparently, it was labeled sensitive content for some weird reason. Maybe I'm posting too much Bronco stuff, if you will. Jordan, you doing good? How have you recovered? Have you recovered from the Rockies sweep and the first sweep for their season? Have you recovered?
Yeah, I have. I have because I really didn't care about Marlins baseball this year, if I'm being quite honest. I'm not going to care.
It's funny because I didn't care about Rockies baseball.
So I'm not going to care until those owners out. So that's just another. I guess till both owners are out, because I know Rockies fans are not happy with theirs either. So that was just two fan bases, that just hate their owner and say, hey, let us get swept instead of you guys. That's why.
Yeah, average. Average fan base for that for the games that was like 5,000 or something like that. It was something.
I'm surprised people went on Friday because there was a hurricane outside, and I was expecting like 5 people to maybe go there. Very surprised at least 5,000 went on Friday, I would say.
Actually, 5,000 would be more that I saw in attendance for the Colorado Spartans and Omaha Beef Arena football game.
There you go.
So it goes to show you how we are still a little bit in transition for arena football. All right, so let's jump into the news. There was so much to talk about as far as like the running back room, the Broncos running back room, and I think what it kind of boils down to is, really in the grand scheme of things, as long as you hit on your quarterback and you build around it, you can add pretty much anybody to any room, right? If you wanted to. And that's the whole point of building a roster around the quarterback, right? And frankly, if you were looking at some of the rooms that the Broncos needed to add, they needed a veteran in that running back room. Well, we might be trending in the direction for the Broncos to be bringing in a veteran, and it's a bit of a younger veteran. And, it's one that if he is healthy, he's been probably one of the more productive running backs in the NFL. And that would be J.K. Dobbins, who was originally home of the AFC West Los Angeles Chargers. And it's an intriguing signing because in the sense, like, it's a lot like, Nick Chubb, where you put him with the Broncos, right? You put J.K. Dobbins with the Broncos, and again, it's all possible. It's not actually a foregone conclusion, although it feels like it's trending that way. It feels like you put him on this staff. This is the first time Dobbins will have had a healthy staff. So you put him there. It does beg the question of what will be for J.K. If he becomes a Denver Bronco.
Yeah, the J.K. Dobbins news to me was the news itself was not surprising. The timing of the news was surprising because pretty much ever since the offseason began, I kind of figured like we would probably add some free agent running back to that room. And J.K. Dobbins was a pretty easy candidate to kind of fall into that role, just based on how he did last year for the Chargers and just the kind of skill set that he brings. He's like a very strong, powerful runner, just doesn't stay healthy is his biggest issue. But he had, I think, almost double-digit touchdowns last year. The biggest thing to me is like, I mean, obviously this comes on the heels of us drafting RJ Harvey pretty highly in the draft. And it just like is interesting to see them make this move now. Well, I don't know what this is like supposed to tell us. I don't know if this is like more of an indictment on everyone else except for RJ Harvey, which is kind of what it feels like to me, because like you felt highly enough about this rookie to bring him in and overdraft him compared to, popular consensus on the kind of like location that most people thought he'd be going. So yeah, it's just interesting timing. I'm all for it. Honestly, like I think you can't add enough talent to that room for the Broncos because it's been completely devoid of talent for years. And I like the idea of having a more proven change of pace back. I mean, obviously RJ Harvey, a lot of promise. He's looked really, really good in camp. He's explosive. He's fast. He looks like has all the makings of like the Denver Broncos version of Alvin Kamara, albeit he's not quite as much of the pass catcher that Alvin Kamara is, and I say that.
Yeah.
I say not quite as jokingly because like Alvin Kamara, absolute elite pass catcher. Not that RJ Harvey can't do that, but he's just not as good. He can do it. He's still a good pass catcher, but he's not on the Alvin Kamara level. But yeah, I mean, I'm trusting in and I'm hoping that RJ Harvey will do well. Even as a rookie, but behind him, I mean, the entire room is unproven. Like, you have the promise of RJ Harvey, but he's still done like literally nothing for you. You haven't seen him actually play an NFL game, so you don't really know what you're getting there. And then behind him, it's like Audric Estime, almost nothing. Jaleel McLaughlin, who's like, okay, he's a good depth back. Like I like Jaleel McLaughlin. Tyler Bidet was good when he was healthy and on the field, but that was like a long time ago, and you haven't really seen that much from him. Blake Watson, who I was into when we drafted him, or he was undrafted, but signed him. He's kind of just been a healthy scratch. Don't know what he's going to be doing. I don't know if he's like more special teams or just depth or practice squad. So we need something there that has proven production. And I think that J.K. Dobbins would be probably the perfect pairing for that because he's not going to be running back one. I don't even know if we're going to have a running back one. It's probably going to be a committee. He's not going to get 300, 200 touches even. He's going to get probably like maybe 100 touches. I don't know. He's not going to get the ball a ton, but I think he works well if you are looking for like a change of pace back, maybe more of like a goal line back if you don't think Audric Estime is going to be able to do that for you well. And I like the idea of bringing him in and not just relying on Estime because could Estime do that? Sure. Does he have the ability to? Absolutely. Has he shown that he can do that? No. That's the biggest thing.
Jordan, obviously, it's not a veteran wide receiver, and that they added, but it is a vet running back. How you feeling about the addition of possibly J.K. Dobbins to the room? Which, again, we say it just seems like it's trending that way. He's going to be visiting today and tomorrow, And it's overall fitting in the sense that he is going to be signing because, well, one, he just had a tweet about like an hour ago. That was like a hype video. But two, OTAs are still going on this week, and it's the first media session for OTAs tomorrow. So I don't know. But what say you, Jordan? How you excited for the move?
Interesting timing with all that. He visits on Thursday, which is the first day media is back for OTAs. Just I don't know, just very interesting. He gets to see OTA practice, a little bit. He gets the vibe around the facility. I don't know, just something a little interesting. But when I read the news, surprised a little bit, but just more in terms of the timing of it. But I did think of it as not a knock on RJ Harvey, just because, again, RJ Harvey is going to be a rookie. He has a lot to learn, but it keeps him fresh. It will also keep J.K. Dobbins fresh. Sean Payne loves to alternate running backs. He loves a rotation of them. So Dobbins doesn't have to be that workhorse he was with the Chargers, or at least that he was planning to be with the Chargers if he would have stayed there. So he will be able to rotate a lot more often now in Denver. And everybody has injury concerns with him, and rightfully so. I would say two things to that. One, again, I just mentioned the rotation of it. He's not going to be playing every single down. He's going to be rotating with RJ Harvey. We'll see a little bit of Estime and a little bit of McLaughlin every once in a while. So he wouldn't have that the bruising every single play and all that. The tax that you get every game that a usual running back will get. So the rotation of all that will help him, especially with injury concerns and all that. And then the second part is Denver's medical staff, their strength and conditioning staff. I mean, they have been great ever since Sean Payne got here and Sean Payne hired his guys. So I trust them. So I think this will be a positive once it gets done. Hopefully it gets done, but I think it's a good move on all parties.
Yeah, and I saw a stat out there that is, if you in terms of fumbling, and you put Dobbins to the room, there's I don't think an unquestioned argument. Like it's a bona fide fact now. Like if you add him to the room, right, he's gonna be one of your more trusted running backs because he doesn't fumble all that much. He has one fumble in 244 touches. So, and I think that that's the thing is you're talking about a running back that you can trust. You give him a staff like that, and maybe it's one where myself and maybe some others probably should have had J.K. Dobbins a bit higher than others, like guys like Nick Chubb, or possibly even a Najee Harris, because or even an Aaron Jones, right? There's a lot of buzz about possibly Aaron Jones in Denver. But you give him a healthy staff, which seems to be the theme. Like if you're going to be looking at an overarching theme for the Broncos offseason, I mean, if you're going to put it in an overall umbrella, it's taking flyers, right? That's been the overarching theme, is taking flyers, spending money, but taking flyers on, guys that, are recovering from injury or, is some of that, like Drake Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Evan Ingram to a degree, right? You put J.K. Dobbins in that. He fits the mold of that. Nick Chubb did as well, right? But J.K. Dobbins fits that. So you put him there. There was probably no higher ceiling running back with 26 years old than Dobbins. I mean, we're talking about a player that he was in the middle of the pack, right? He was in the middle of the pack statistically last year of yards after contact. And that's in the echelon of some of the better backs in the league too. So it's just he fits, I think, ideally with what the Broncos are wanting to do. I think, and we should probably just start there as far as, as far as running back questions. Again, we're just going to be under the assumption that J.K. Dobbins signs, but I think the two players that at least it puts it in notice, if you will, or puts on notice, is Audric Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin, right? But I want to actually ask another question in that, what if we're looking at this in just a completely different area of you have the Broncos where, they'll probably have a running back by committee, right? I think like that's the idea. But what if we're looking at it all wrong in the sense that maybe they don't just have 3 backs, maybe they have 4 backs, and the idea of that is the special teams element of this. Like if you have Blake Watson, like is the competition really about Blake Watson and Jaleel McLaughlin, and whoever wins that battle is going to end up being like a kickoff returner. So what do you guys say about like possibly carrying 4 and then, and just the idea of possibly who is on the bubble because of J.K. Dobbins?
And that's an interesting question. I mean, I personally think your returner, I don't know. It depends on like, do they want to use Marvin Mims in that role again? Or do they want Marvin to have more of a role specifically on the offensive side of the ball? I don't see J.K. Dobbins being your returner, just to be honest. Like, I think you're signing him to be your running back. And to me, the biggest thing to me that this is like putting more on the bubble is Audric Estime, because like there's other guys in that room, specifically with like Jaleel and even like Blake Watson, that you can try out in the return game. And not to say that Audric Estime can't do that, but that's not really his game. He's bigger. He's not slow, but he's slower. Like, I don't think he has the kind of archetype and skill set that you'd want to use for something like that. And J.K. Dobbins, I just don't think that he's best used in that role. Like, you already want to have like maybe a little bit of a snap count, not a snap count, but specifically just like you don't want to work him too much. You want to limit the touches that you give him, make sure they're high value touches. And I don't think that's the highest value touches, to be honest. And like, obviously I'm not the coach, but to me, it's like if you have a back like that, he's only 26. Also, like we talk about his injury history and all that, like he's not old.
No, yeah,
he does have a little bit of an injury bug, and like that's a concern. But to me, if you're going to sign someone like that, you want him to be making plays for you on the offense for let's just say 100 snaps you're giving him. I wouldn't like think that signing would have any impact whatsoever on the return. On the return game. I think there's other guys that could be in that role. I mean, honestly, even Pat Bryant could be in that role. Like, you want someone who has sure hands. His surest hands you got, like, even as a
yes,
rookie.
Jordan.
And obviously, I'm not saying he's the most reliable hands on the team. Like, that's ridiculous. He hasn't caught a single pass for us, but like that's kind of his biggest skill set, and he's sort of like Tim Patrick in that regard. But if you want to look at newer guys coming in that could potentially be more in the return game or like used on special teams, that's where I would see it. Yeah, to me, I mean, the biggest loser was Audric Estime, like by far. I'm not saying I think Audric Estime would be cut, although it wouldn't be terribly shocking, but I really don't think it would happen. I think he's just going to be relegated further down the depth chart because they don't think that they don't know if he's shown enough to warrant having faith in him as like let's just even say 1B back, right? Like if it's truly going to be the running back by committee, which all the signs point to, I mean, like at Sean Payton's offense is probably going to be, even if RJ Harvey's 1A, you still need a 1B. And who's the 1B? We didn't even have a 1 anything last year. And Audric Estime obviously was a rookie, but like he just wasn't fantastic. So I think personally he's the biggest loser, if you would call it that, of Audric Estime. Okay. Is the biggest loser of a potential J.K. Dobbins signing. I think that's the biggest reason that we would be wanting to do that.
No, I agree. Like, this raises a lot of questions about Estime. I think we're going to get that answer tomorrow. I think someone in the media is going to ask, especially if the deal gets done.
Maybe.
Or that. I mean, yeah, maybe, you never know. But I mean, hopefully we get that question asked and we get the answer to that.
Some of the questions that they ask makes you scratch your head every time.
Yeah, we might get his order from tonight at Shanahan's, but
right.
It just raises the question, like, what's going on with Estime? Like, we were expecting that leap from him heading into this year, and then now with this J.K. Dobbins news, you can only question what's going on in his development. Is there a lingering issue or injury that we're going to hear about in the next 24 hours? I mean, we've been down that rodeo before. I mean, the Steelers are doing it now with Jonnu Smith. They're interested in trading for him, and then 24 hours later, we hear that Darnell Washington got hurt in their OTAs. So who knows what's up in our running back room. But right now, all I know is the biggest winner, I guess you can say in this, is obviously J.K. Dobbins. But I would say R.J. Harvey. I mean, he's going to learn a ton from J.K. Dobbins if this does happen. And I think they're a perfect complement to one another. And it just sucks for Estime as of right now.
See, for me, it isn't about Estime. It might be. I think it's about Jaleel. And I kind of keep coming back to, and maybe it's just the overall optimism. And I know they lost the game, but I keep coming back to that Chargers game. And ironically enough, but because Dobbins was there. But, that was the first game where you legitimately felt really comfortable, overall, with possibly the optimism of that running back room with guys like Audric Estime and Blake Watson. Blake Watson looked really, really good. And if you get that kind of Blake Watson with a full offseason and everything, see, that to me is where it's – I think Jaleel's on the chopping block. I think he is the one that we should be looking at. And, I do somewhat agree with David in the sense that, he's a bit of a one-trick pony. He made a few touchdowns and plays that were a bit of his own, right, making. He was impressive in that. But it's kind of like the Philip Lindsay syndrome a little bit. He is a bit of a one-trick pony. If he added a little bit of an element in the passing game consistently, he would be a dynamic threat, which is, I think, the reason why they added R.J. Harvey, because the one thing that R.J. Harvey has that no other back has in the room is you finally have a running back that can add some impact on the offensive or in the rushing game and the passing game. In Dobbins, you're adding pass pro and a little bit more of a reliable vet in the room, something you didn't have with, Javonte Williams, if you will, last year, even though statistically you could say he was running back one when he really wasn't. And I think that too, if you look at it from even the Javonte Williams perspective, they had Javonte and they had Estime, right, for a full season. They easily could have moved on from Audric Estime, or even Javonte Williams, mostly Javonte Williams if they really wanted to, but they just went the entire season with Javonte and Estime. So I wouldn't even put them past it where they still have the guys of, Estime and Dobbins. And I think that this whole idea that, Sean Payton has never really had a running back by committee idea is erroneous to me. It is obnoxious that people think that he's never had a running back by committee. Go look up what he's had in his career with guys like Chris Ivory and, Reggie Bush, and Mark Ingram and all these guys. He has had running back by committees, and running back by committee is a 3 running back by committee, not a 2 running back by committee. That's a running back duo. So he's clearly had that in the past. And I agree. I think that just the idea that R.J. Harvey is probably your biggest winner still. So I think it's funny that the fantasy owners are mad about that's why I think it's funny in the sense that, they're mad about it when in reality it's this is I feel when you look at it from the room, the running game was really the one glaring area overall in that season last year where they needed an improvement. You put J.K. Dobbins for what he was that last year for even the 13 games, right? For even the 13 games that he was there, you give me that J.K. Dobbins for this team, they actually, I think, have a legitimate shot to beat the Buffalo Bills in that game. I very much believe that. Would they have won? I doubt it. But I think they would have been a far more competitive game, and you clearly have a much more capable running game. A much more capable running game now with Dobbins, and it definitely adds a little bit more juice to the room. So I think nonetheless it's a healthy signing, and I would be curious to see if the Broncos are done. So But any other questions or comments that you guys had about the possible thing about J.K. Dobbins?
I mean, on my end, no. It was just, again, I think the timing of it, the question surrounding SMA. I mean, and you make a good point about Jaleel McLaughlin. I mean, there's question marks now surrounding him. Do they still view Blake Watson as a running back that can potentially make a impact in that room? I know Tyler Bidet had his game against the Bucks as well. So training camp is going to be interesting, to say the least, when it comes to this running back room. If Dobbins does sign by tomorrow or this weekend, we'll see.
It's interesting, definitely, about Jaleel. I don't necessarily agree entirely. Like, I think Jaleel is a good depth running back. Now, am I saying like he should be a starter? Absolutely not. To me, the player that is currently on this roster that would pose more of a threat to Jaleel and potentially make him irrelevant and cut worthy, or just like on the chopping block, would maybe be Blake Watson. Like if they see Blake Watson as like kind of the heir apparent to the sort of back that Jaleel is. But I don't personally think J.K. Dobbins is that player for Jaleel to kind of push him out. But I mean, definitely could be. Like you're not wrong. He's not like necessarily a special back. I just think he's a solid running back, like 3, which not a terrible thing to have. But yeah, I mean, it depends on what you can get out of him value wise. Like, do you want to maybe try to use him a little bit on special teams? And if not, then what value is he providing? I mean, that is a question for sure. So
one thing is for sure, and obviously we saw a bit of the spring game started to take some life as the season was progressing, and this, and that was just even with wide receivers. But like, that is one thing you can bank on, is that the running back screens will be a little bit more effective with guys like J.K. Dobbins and specifically R.J. Harvey. Like the screen game is going to be a staple for Sean. I think that just where it's going to come down to, I feel like, for Jaleel, it might end up being special teams, just because that's where I think the Blake Watson factor is so fascinating, because he's got the wide receiver in him. He's got the running back in him. You put him on special teams, and with the new wave of special teams and how they're doing it, it's going to be interesting. And now that you have the GOAT Darren Rizzi in the building, like, do you put Michael Burton back there? And it's almost like another running formation, for a player like that. Or, what we were talking about earlier, right? Like, do you put a wrinkle in there? Like, do you put Troy Franklin and maybe Marvin Mims back there? So I think it's going to be quite interesting as far as the special teams element. And the reason why I think that it's probably more likely, I'd say now, that they carry 4 running backs, whoever that'll be. I think 4 is probably that number. What is the next thing if you were to look at a positional battle? And this is early. This is early. This is June 4th. But like, what is an early point positional battle that you guys are kind of like eyeballing for training camp?
Jordan, I'll let you go first.
And
You going to talk about the elephant in the room here?
I'm
I'm just waiting to see what you say.
talking about early positional battle that I'm going to look forward to. I mean, Cam, you want to answer that for me, or?
No, I mean, like, it's okay. I kind of gave.
Do you guys need a minute?
Listen, I think we all know where I'm leaning to. I mean, I need to know who's going to be our wide receiver too.
It's Pat Bryant.
I have to know. That's going to be by far the most Keenan thing I'm going to watch during the whole training camp. Like, whether it's highlights, whether it's the things we read in the media, whether what we hear from Sean Payton. Like, I hope there's a wide receiver.
My co-host has got it.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope there's a wide receiver question every single day of training camp, so we can get an
Every
answer.
single day.
every single day.
Every fifth question.
Because I don't think people understand the importance of like the impact his wide receiver room has for the season. As currently constructed, when you look at Courtland Sutton, I'll say Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Devon Vele. When you say those 5 names, I don't know if that is a group of wide receivers you can say that that's a AFC conference game wide receiver group. Like they can make it. You know what I'm trying to say. Like I don't think that's a group that can take us that far in the passing game. Now, I understand we made it to the wild card last year. That's all great and dandy, but I expect this year to be divisional or better, which we for sure had the defense for that. I mean, we have a defense that is a Super Bowl caliber type defense, if I'm being quite honest. Now, when it comes to the offense, that's a different story. And it mainly harpers on that wide receiver room because if J.K. Dobbins is signed, I'm a little bit more confident in our running back room than I would be in our wide receiver room. And that might sound crazy, but that's just how I feel about it.
Are you including Evan Ingram in your little pass-catching quartet there?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I don't have a – I guess I will because Evan Ingram's not your traditional tight end. As you can say, I mean, he's not going to be blocking his ass off like how a normal tight end would be. I mean, I am real close to mentioning him. I mean, he's probably running an Empower Fieldhouse at this moment. But listen, I don't know if this group of wide receivers, you say, hey, yeah, this is a group that can easily make it to the AFC conference title game, or this is a group that even can go to the Super Bowl. Like, when you look at wide receiver units, and I would love to compare it from the NFC title game and the AFC title game that we just saw. I would love to compare those wide receiver rooms to ours and just say like, hey, yeah, it's a very similar room because I highly doubt it.
Well, let's continue the conversation a little bit. And again, obviously this is a bit early, but I do think wide receiver too. I mean, as much as there might be different levels to it, you know, as far as like whether or not like Andy put it in there, you know, that Pat Bryant wide receiver too. Like, you know, there's different levels of the idea of like, hey, wide receiver two. But I think nonetheless, wide receiver two is a positional battle. And I think that
It is.
Regardless of kind of like how optimistic you feel about the room, you know, it's going to be interesting. And so I want to hear your thoughts, Brandon, kind of continuing that idea about, you know, wide receiver two, because it is interesting.
No, I definitely agree. I think wide receiver two is going to be probably one of the top questions going into the offseason, the rest of the offseason and going into the season. I don't know if I would say positional battle. To me, it's more, well, I mean, I guess you could, but to me, it's kind of more of a what is their vision? Like, what are they trying? Oh my gosh. What are they trying?
Yo, that's crazy. That's insane.
I love you, Andy.
I mean, if he can cure CTE, can Antonio Brown still run routes? I'm just kidding. I do not want Antonio Brown anywhere near this state. Please no. It was just too easy. Anyway, I don't know what I was saying. Oh, to me, it's not. I don't even know if I'd call it a positional battle, although you could call it that. To me, it's more like, what is the vision for this offense and like what kind of wide receivers do they want to use? And the reason I say that is like, do they want, like, is Marvin Mims going to, I don't know, is Marvin Mims going to kind of step into that wide receiver 2 role? Like, is that what they envision for him?
Yeah.
Do they want to use him in that kind of way, or do they want him to still kind of be more of that wide receiver, not even wide receiver 3, but he's more of that, he's just the burner. He's the burner, long down the field, shot guy, Mims. Is he going to be like that? I mean, he's not.
Because I would throw Franklin in there at times too. Like,
yeah, to me though, Marvin Mims is by far more proven than Troy Franklin. Like, Marvin Mims has shown me exponentially more than Troy Franklin. No hate on Troy Franklin, it's just true. Like, I'm excited to see what Troy Franklin does as well. But that's kind of what it seems to me like. I'm curious to see what that looks like. And like, if it's Devon Vele, then great. Like, who are you wanting to spread the ball to in this offense? And to me, I think honestly, like, I'm okay with this wide receiver room as it stands. I know Jordan, you had some questions about it, and like, not even putting Pat Bryant into the equation at all. Like, let's just not even think about that. If you told me like you're still going to have Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims is going to take at least a little bit of a jump. Devon Vele is going to take at least a little bit of a jump. Troy Franklin is going to take at least a little bit of a jump. You have Pat Bryant, who we'll put him in this because obviously he's on the team. Now you have Pat Bryant that is going to give you just something. He's another body in the wide receiver room that you can trust to not drop the ball. Like, that's at bare minimum. If that's what he is, I'm okay with that, because especially if we sign J.K. Dobbins, we will actually have a running game that I think we will lean on far more than we were able to last year. And we have an actual tight end in Evan Ingram who can also catch the ball. So I don't think, like, yes, returning the wide receiver room basically from last year, did it excite me? No, because I do think that there's some more talent that could be added there. But again, if the younger guys take at least a little bit of a leap and you don't have to put as much on them, you have a more experienced Bo who is more ingrained in the offense, has a returning offensive play caller, finally. You have actual ability to run the ball, and you have someone that can catch the ball that is not a wide receiver, and just a tight end that functions. Like, I think all of those things combined make me feel okay about the talent in the wide receiver room, just because you don't have to put as much on them. And let's just say they make just even a modest average improvement, the younger guys. Like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, this is such
Do I still want to add like an elite wide receiver to that? Yes. But did I think we were in the position to do that this offseason? Free agency, yes. Devontae Adams, I want to do, but I know you went to the Rams, and I know that's probably never going to happen. But like, if we didn't get sniped by the Bucks, would we have gone wide receiver at 20? I don't know, but
yeah, that's kind of I don't see. My thing is, I don't think they, as much as I will say, as much
I don't
as
think that's who they were going for. But I mean,
yeah, much as I loved Egbuka, I don't know whether or not the Broncos would have gotten there.
My point was more we didn't have the ability to add an elite wide receiver.
Yeah. But I think what makes this conversation interesting, and it might be actually number one as far as, battles, if you will, for camp, is just there's varying opinions all across the board for the wide receiver room. And I don't think it's wrong. Like, and that's a good thing in a sense, like the Pat Bryant wide receiver too, or, or even Devon Vele possibly being wide receiver too. If Vele plays at what he did at the beginning part of the year, you might actually have a legitimate wide receiver too if he plays with what he did at the very beginning, because he was having like the lion's share of targets alongside Cortland Sutton. I think the Mims aspect of this is interesting because, like, I don't know whether or not he's a wide receiver too, but I think the stats for what he could be having in 2025 would tend to suggest that he is wide receiver too. And I don't think he will be a wide receiver too necessarily, but I think the stats would probably say otherwise to that.
Just to interrupt real quick, I did look at the NFC and the AFC title games from last year. So the final four teams remaining last year. And the Eagles-Commanders game, I mean, obviously our wide receiver room does not even sniff the Eagles with
clearly, I mean,
Brown and Devontae Smith. I mean, I think both of them can have one leg and it'll still be better than ours. When looking at the Commanders one, when you see Terry McLaurin, they had Dynamite Brown. They also had another one. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but his last name starts with a Z. He was actually not bad for them.
Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus.
Yeah.
They also had Luke McCaffrey, but he didn't do much last year or even in that game. But what the Commanders did have was they had an elite wide receiver one in Terry McLaurin. So again, I know there's been a lot of conversation about Courtland Sutton, and if he's a true wide receiver one, that's another topic for another day. But as I go into the Chiefs-Bills game, the Chiefs had Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown. I guess you have to add in the presence of Travis Kelce in that game, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, who actually made an impact in that game, surprisingly. But they had a good run game in the AFC title game, so that's what took them over the hump. And we're hoping the Broncos can do the same if they make it there. And then with the Bills, you can make an argument that our wide receiver room compared to that room in that game is probably similar. I mean, Amari Cooper, which is a little bit faded right now, washed, if you want to say.
He's not signed, by the way.
Not signed, but I think
my dream is still alive.
I think there's a reason he's not signed. But Keon Coleman, I think he's an upcoming guy for them. Yeah. Curtis Samuel, Matt Collins, already said Shakir, but maybe you can compare it to theirs, but I still think the Bills' wide receiver will be better than ours. But again, the Bills had an MVP quarterback. So unless Bo Nix is going to carry, legitimately carry the offense,
which he technically did. He broke a back because of it.
Yes. If he does do that, then I can't see the team being a divisional game or a conference title game team. But as of right now, currently constructed, I just don't see that wide receiver room playing in any of those games.
What are some other positional battles, that maybe you're kind of catching your eye a little bit? I think if there's one for me, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a positional battle per se, but it's more so how they're going to divvy up the four corners, or not the four corners, but the three corners, if you will. Like how are they going to do that? Like, are they, in terms of Jaquan McMillan, Riley Moss, and Zade Barron? Like, how are they going to be able to handle all that? So, I wouldn't say that's a positional battle thing, but like, how is that going to be orchestrated? So, like, Barron obviously is the new toy of the room, right? And we know that he's a very versatile corner weapon, right? You could play him inside, you could play him outside. You could frankly put him at safety. I mean, I've actually heard some people use the comparison to like Earl Thomas, right? Like, that he might be an Earl Thomas. That's a safety. But if they have a long-term plan in the sense of, a boundary corner, that would tend to mean that Riley Moss, we believe you are really, really, really good as a boundary corner. But that year that you had that you were injured scared us a little bit. So if you get injured, right? If you get injured and Barron takes your job on the outside, I hate to say it, but that might be Barron's job at that point in time, if Moss does go down with injury. So my thing's not necessarily a battle, but it's kind of like how they divvy up those trio of corners of Moss, Barron, and McMillan.
I mean, that's going to be an interesting one. I would like to hear Brandon's thoughts first about it because, I mean, I do have a little bit of an interesting view on that.
Specifically about the corner position or just other positional battles?
No, just with how they might potentially use Zade.
How they'll use Barron, yeah. So, man, I don't know. I think that's a good question. To be honest, I think the biggest thing is going to be like the biggest. I guess I'll just continue to use loser as the term here. Is Jaquan McMillan? Like, I think Barron is going to be. He's going to be probably like your star dime backer. He's going to be in the nickel, but I think he's going to be flexible enough that you're going to probably see him play some outside. You might even see him play some down more towards the line of scrimmage. You might see him play safety. I don't know, but I think he's probably going to primarily be in that nickel slot. And I think that also gives him the most versatility to be moved around the field and be used in those other places that I just mentioned. But I really think it's going to be, at least initially, he's going to be on the in the nickel. Now, the biggest thing to me that's going to be telling for this is what happens with Riley Moss, because if
Yeah.
Riley Moss continues to show that improvement that he has shown before when that like jumped to tier 2, great. He could be your outside corner, but he definitely had some regression at the end, towards the end of last year. I know he had
A lot of that was
injury.
recovery for injury.
I know it was recovery, like injury, but still, like he did kind of not make me walk back that confidence, but it was a little bit more of like, okay, this isn't quite as established as I hoped. And so I just, again, like, does he continue that? That's what I'm going to be primarily looking for. Does Riley Moss just stay as your other starting outside corner? Or is he still struggling with that? And if he is, then I do think you could see Barron maybe be moved more to the outside.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to be looking for. Now, do I think Riley Moss will continue to play well? Yes. I mean, like, I think that's likely, but that's the number one thing I'm looking at, because
it's
he
really
did have
hard.
some struggles there last year.
What's really hard for what Moss did to literally come in and be a dude for 3/4 of a season.
Yeah.
And then obviously it goes down for, that knee injury. And then it kind of went south a little bit. Mostly I would say because of that knee injury, but yeah. So what do you think, Jordan?
I would love if Barron can play on the outside and be that tag team partner alongside Surtain. Like you got PS2 on one side, you got Barron on the other, and they just completely lock down the outside parts of the field. I mean, I think that'd be the ideal scenario, at least in my opinion. And then you can have Jaquan McMillan still in that nickel role, or maybe even try Riley Moss in that role as well. But I will say, if
Put Chris Abrams in that role, even maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to see Barron play that safety role, even if a little bit, just because I would like to just have two solidified lockdown corners on the outside with PS2 and Barron. I think that'd be a game changer for Denver. Now, if Barron starts off in the nickel, then they still have Riley outside. That's still fine with me. I'm still a big believer in Riley Moss, but if I can have the ideal scenario, I think it'd be Barron outside, PS2 obviously outside, and then McMillan or Jaquan McMillan or Riley Moss at nickel, which I think it'd be Jaquan McMillan.
Yeah, and again, like the way I would qualify it is it's not a battle. It's just kind of like how they divvy it up a little bit, and I think that's why the Barron pick was so fascinating and fun, right? Like, and it's one of the reasons why, like, I wasn't really like the it wasn't necessarily on radar, but I wasn't against it, right? Like, in Brandon, you weren't even against it either. It kind of been like maybe low on the radar, if you will, but like we weren't really against the idea of Barron, but it makes it all that fascinating. And so I think that, maybe to kind of continue the theme of the training, the training camp battles a little bit, I will say I am very curious as far as the safety room, how that's gonna shake out a little bit. And obviously I know, you got Brandon Jones in the room. Maybe he's going to be taking a big leap in that year 2 of the Vance Joseph system. You add Talanoa Hufanga, who, if he is healthy, you are arguably talking about a all-pro safety paired with Brandon Jones. And then you put in, JL Skinner, PJ Locke, Devon Key. I believe they carried 5 safeties last year. So like it wouldn't shock me if they did that again. Because I know they do value special teams all that, all that much, if you will, because they love special teams. But I'm very curious to see that safety room all really shake out, specifically with JL. Like this is an important year for like for a guy like JL Skinner. He has to take that leap if he wants to maybe find some snaps and everything. And maybe this is where they go a bit of like the Jamal Adams territory a little bit with him, where they, go linebacker, right? Because we know linebacker's a bit of an open area for maybe some room there. But what do you guys feel about that safety room? Because that is, at least on the back end, right? Like the back end safety room is going to be one we're going to be following.
I mean, I'm excited to see what it looks like. I think it's pretty set, personally. The biggest thing is going to be Hufanga, and can he stay healthy, and what does Jones's development look like, and can he, like, not even development. I mean, he's like he's a established safety in the NFL, but more like, what does he look like with a competent safety playing alongside him? And just honestly, the guys behind them, I don't think they're going to be any kind of competition. I mean, not even factoring in the contract that we gave Hufanga. Like, PJ Locke has shown us what he is. I mean, he's a good depth safety, but I don't want him to have to be your starter.
Yeah, at least the year before they gave him the starting gig, he was a really, really, really good, solid safety 3.
Yeah, because he didn't have to play all the time.
Yeah.
So having him go back to that situation is a strength of his. Like, that's going to probably be like more beneficial for him than being a starter. JL Skinner, I mean, who knows with him, to be honest, like, just very big question mark. To me, it's just, I'm curious to see how they use Hufanga more than anything. But
might be a mixture of
that's going to be
Hufanga. Yeah.
That's going to be more fun. I mean, yeah, again, could I see Barron playing in safety? Sure. I know, Jordan, you said you don't really want that to happen. And I don't disagree with you. Like, I think having the lockdown corner duo of Surtain and Barron, I love that idea. I just think, like, I want to give Riley Moss the opportunity to show us if he's continuing on that arc, and if it was really just recovery from that injury that slowed him down. And if it was, then we're going to have a killer defense, killer secondary. I mean, even if it wasn't, we will. But, like, if you can keep Jahdae Barron as sort of your roaming nickel and just, like, kind of star safety potential, outside corner, like, he can just play everything. Like, I think that's just going to open up so many different things. You can rest Hufanga some if need be. If, like, obviously he plays really hard, but he also can, like, kind of get a little bit of the injury bug just because of the way that he plays. So maybe not having him, maybe giving him the opportunity to rest some would be good. But I mean, even if Barron is your lockdown nickel corner, let's say best case scenario, Pat Surtain, obviously reigning defensive player of the year, Riley Moss takes another leap forward and he's just a great outside starting corner alongside Surtain, and you have Barron as your nickel. Like, that's just who throws on that? You can't throw on that. That's such a fantastic trio of corners. Like, the nickel cornerback is so easy to undervalue, but, like, I mean, Chris Harris Jr. was our nickel corner. Like, we know the value that he brought to every Broncos defense that he was a part of, and, like, having an elite nickel corner, game changer, absolute game changer.
Well, I mean, look at the Eagles in that Super Bowl last year. I mean, Cooper DeJean, Darius Slay, and Quinyon Mitchell, and then you had Cooper DeJean on the inside. Look, the nickel corner has proven to become one, if not one of the more vital positions in the last 5 years. Mm-hmm. And because they're playing like about 75% of the snaps, or a little over 70% of the snaps. So it is a big position. And maybe that's one where they do view it. To circle back, maybe that's one where McMillan is kind of like that odd man out. For as much as he's a baller, maybe he is that odd man out a little bit.
I mean, yeah, with McMillan, it's just, who knows? Like, I think he's maybe putting him in that spot start role, backup role, like PJ Locke. Maybe that's better. I mean, McMillan, like, better as a starter than PJ Locke, but he did have some hiccups. Like, maybe him being more of that depth backup spot play is, like, maybe that he's your opportunity to have constant elite nickel play. Like, let's say you have Barron staying in the nickel, and you need to spell him a little bit, or he like gets banged up a little bit on a play or whatever. Obviously, you never want that to happen. But like, you can put McMillan in there and feel confident in what you have out there, even if you're missing Barron for a few plays.
What's a position part for you guys that maybe is on your guys' radar?
So this is not a competition because
kind of like the corner one,
it just doesn't exist. But will we finally have someone who can actually take advantage of the elevation in Colorado at punter? Jeremy Crawshaw, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, what was the 1 year where Broncos had, right, like Jordan and Brennan, like it was Marquette King?
Yeah, it was Marquette King.
And I think it was Sayre. Sayre was at camp one time, and he took a video of Marquette King punting video punting in a trash can, and one of them like went into a trash can. So hopefully, we get some punter highlights. Down there at training camp. If there's that reason where people are recording videos, which if you're recording videos, it would be incredibly rare this year, knowing the fact that it seems like there might be a limited amount of people there at training camp. But
having a great punter is like such an underrated, position in football. Like, especially with the defense that we have, you have a guy that can pin him deep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just hell. That's just literally constant hell. You're putting that opposing offense in like the worst situation imaginable every single time they have the ball. I can't think of honestly many better things you can do for a team than setting your defense up to take advantage of a long field when you have such an elite defense. Like, it just, I'm excited to see what he's going to do, because again, like, you would just think it's easier to do in just thinner air. We just haven't really had it. So, Jeremy Cross, I'll come on down.
You know what they say: special teams, special plays, special players. What say you, Jordan?
Again, it's not a position battle. I'm just more interested to see how the room is going to look. But the inside linebacker room, and I'm looking specifically at one player, because we all know what Dre Greenlaw is going to bring to the table. We know what Alex Singleton is going to bring to the table. I need to know what's happening with Drew Sanders. This is the training camp that we have to officially know.
Yeah. Officially of the official of the official.
Yeah, like, we have to know going into the preseason what's happening with Drew Sanders. Because I think he is still our biggest question mark on that defense, because he has talent. I don't think people are questioning that. People are just questioning if he can stay healthy first.
Yeah.
And second, what position he's going to play. Because if they can finally solidify himself as an inside linebacker, and he can get really good at that and be the player that a lot of people expected him to be, that adds another element to this defense that not a lot of people know nationally. Everybody knows of the big names.
Yeah.
But in terms of somebody that could Drew Sanders, and I love JL Skinner, and I hope this is the year that he turns it up a notch. But if Drew Sanders can really show out and ball out, this defense goes from I don't know if they can get to another tier, because they're already
in the top 5.
But I don't think people understand how dangerous
it could be. By the way, Paul, go check out the I believe it was our last episode, the one, because we took a week off. I believe it was our last episode. We talked about the tush push. It's gonna be interesting to see how all that unfolds. The Drew Sanders thing really is gonna be fascinating, because and what did Sean Payton call him? He called him a pressure player, right? Which could mean a lot of different things, right? Like, it could mean from just the blind fan, it could mean pressure up the middle. right? As an overall blitzer, which I think is the answer. But it could just mean he rises in big moments too. And, and that play that he had in that Chargers game, while it was a pressure play, was a big moment of the game. And I think if you want to put your tinfoil hat on of projecting what the linebacker room should be, I think that, like, long term, like post Alex Singleton, I would love a room of positionless linebackers of like Dre Greenlaw and Drew Sanders, like both those linebackers together. Because like you put them together with possibly the optimism of what Drew Sanders, can be like that. That is a good duo of what is possible. Because I think people forget a little bit about like Sanders. I realize, what is this, entering year 3? It's a hard conversation to have, but like he was like well regarded as like one of the top inside linebackers, if not the top inside linebacker coming out of the draft, even higher than Jack Campbell. And obviously the Lions took Jack Campbell in the draft, but like he is, if Sanders is able to get to his potential, the Broncos had a massive home run, which based on their draft trajectory, it seems like he will. Like, because it seems like even for as limited draft capital as they've had, from the time when they've had that limited draft capital, they've hit on nearly every single draft pick. So it's going to be interesting. As far as the other part, I will say it is great knowing the fact that we do not have a quarterback competition. And I think you can say that the Broncos didn't even have a quarterback competition last year, even though, obviously we know that Bo had to win it. But it is phenomenal knowing the fact that we are going into a season where we can pencil in our franchise quarterback as the starting quarterback for week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and so on and so forth. So, that is really good to see. We'll talk about more. We actually might be, we'll be doing a little bit more positional. I think what we might do is, as we kind of get closer to like positional battles, if you will, like look at position groups and like them specifically, and I think that the last one probably that I would want to touch on before we go into our last and final topic is the edge room, right? Like what would be that edge room looking like? So obviously you have the main course, right? Like you got Nick Bonito, you have Jonathan Cooper, you have Dondrea Tillman in there. You have Jonah Ellis, and you have a bunch of others in there that are going to be hopefully, Savion Jones, maybe Q Robinson, possibly entered into that mix. So I think the edge room from the bottom area, I think is going to be an interesting and healthy competition because, right, the Broncos led the entire NFL in sacks, and it wasn't just the edge room; it was the interior defensive line, but as well. But I think that if there is one player specifically of that edge room, I am very fascinated with who could take that leap from year 1 to year 2. It would be Jonah Ellis. I think Jonah Ellis is probably the one guy of that room where if he takes that step up, granted, the edge room was already lethal with Benito and Cooper as far as even not talked about much nationally. But you're talking about a really good room. And if you just so happen to not extend Nick Bonito, the reason why you're not extending Nick Bonito is because you have someone waiting in the wings like that of Jonah Ellis because he took that next step. So Ellis is one I'm definitely circling as far as, one of those players that could take that leap from year 1 to year 2.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And then obviously, the fullback debate, as I saw in the comments, of Michael Burton and Nate Atkins, Nate the Goat Atkins, which I think is going to be, and I think we had the conversation every year about like Atkins and Burton. We know that like the Broncos will cut Burton, like, and then bring him back, every single week. So yeah, he's the Kyle Pecco, blast for the past. Just cut and always brought back, if you will. All right, so final story, and this is one that we missed last week, and this is one that is certainly a topic that is obviously a favorite of ours because he's a favorite Denver Broncos player. But the late Demaryius Thomas was inducted into the Ring of Fame, and he will be honored in the Giants game, which they will also be honoring the Super Bowl 50 team as well. So it'll be really cool. It'll be a cool moment with the Super Bowl 50 team, Demaryius Thomas, and so I thought we'd give like the last little, few moments here, like last 20 or so minutes, just get a chance to talk about Demaryius Thomas and, the player that he was, and everything. So knowing the fact that we have our wide receiver aficionado over there in the top right corner, I feel it's appropriate for him to lead off that wide receiver topic of talking about Optimus Prime, Demaryius Thomas.
I mean, one of the big reasons why I'm a Broncos fan from Miami is because of Demaryius Thomas. I mean, he was your true wide receiver one in every asset and aspect you can think of, from on the field to off the field. I mean, he was the one that you wanted to be your franchise guy. When everybody mentioned the Broncos, everybody mentioned Demaryius Thomas. So he takes his rightful place in the Ring of Fame. That Giants game is going to be great just because, again, it's also alumni weekend that weekend, and they're all going to be celebrating him, all the legends from the past and stuff like that. So Demaryius Thomas was ultimately my favorite, or he is still my favorite wide receiver in Broncos history. So glad that he got that honor and that recognition. And I'll never forget me as a little kid here in Miami watching him catch that slant from Tebow against the Steelers and just running that to the crib. I mean,
He was his rise to stardom.
Yep.
If you will.
I will never, ever forget where I was in this house that I'm in right now and all that. I mean, he had that much of an impact. So,
Brandon?
Couldn't agree more. So happy for Demaryius's family and his memory to be able to be inducted into the Broncos Ring of Fame. Can't really think of, honestly, a more deserving player than Demaryius Thomas. So glad that they did right by him. Probably outside of Von Miller, my favorite non-quarterback that I've ever watched. And I say that just because huge Peyton Manning fan, family was a Peyton Manning fan, or Peyton Manning fans in Indiana as well. Wow, that's actually a tongue twister to say quickly. So obviously I gotta have Peyton Manning in there, but just to have like the kind of person he was, not even just the kind of player he was, on our team for so long was special. Jordan talked about the catch versus the Steelers in the immediate overtime killer. That was just absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous catch that I will also never, ever forget. But there were so many. There were so many from DT. There was that like one-handed touchdown grab he had against the Chiefs, which was ridiculous. Back of the end zone. He had one, I think, against the Seattle as well. Like he got after it with the one-handed grabs.
Yeah.
But just an elite wide receiver, an even better person. I'm so glad he's in the Ring of Fame. But man, he was taken too soon.
He was, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was the one wide receiver where in the wide receivers that Manning played with and threw to, I believe he called Demaryius Thomas the most talented wide receiver he has ever played with. So, we're talking about like some Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne. Where'd he go to school, Jordan? That's right. Reggie Wayne, Brandon Stokely, Broncos legend, obviously Colts legend, and Manning safety net he played with. But Wes Welker, Eric Decker, and sort of call DT like one of the best and the most talented wide receivers. Quite the thing. And obviously Paul, chimed in with the Tim Tebow to Demaryius Thomas, which that is the best play. Like that is actually like one of the best plays in Broncos history. But that is the best play of obviously Tebow's career, but Demaryius's career, because everybody remembers that play. And I know we've mentioned some plays. I like Brandon. You mentioned one, like the play, in the back of the end zone against the Kansas City Chiefs. But what was one play where, aside from the Demaryius Thomas catch against the Steelers, that you vividly remember that is not that play?
I mean, I already gave one, so I'll let Jordan go.
I mean, I would say it was tough for me because remember, I am a bit young.
You were about 4 years old.
No, I'm not that young, but I will explain my situation. Living here in Miami, the only times I got to see the Broncos play was when they played at 4:30 my time, and if they were on CBS or Fox, and there wasn't a Dolphins game at the time, or it was a national televised game. Fortunately enough, they were really good in those times, so I got to see them a lot. But the times I did not see them, I legit would follow the game because I didn't know illegal streams when I was little, and I didn't have Stream East back in the day and all that. I would literally follow the game cast on ESPN. Like the little football field on the ESPN app and the ball going like that. Like that's how I would literally follow the Broncos games back in the day until I got older and I found out how to watch it. Illegally or legally, whatever you want to.
Thank you, NFL Plus, by the way, to actually go back and watch some old games.
But I mean, another catch for Demaryius Thomas. I mean, he's had a lot of one-handed catches. Yeah. I know the one that he had for like 40 plus yards. Man, I gotta search this up now. I think it was against the Chiefs, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Back of the end. That's the one I think that Brandon was talking about, like back of the end zone.
Is that the one you were referring? I mean, he's had a lot of plays against the Chiefs.
He did have a lot of plays against the Chiefs.
Yeah. But this was the one in Denver.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that is the one that he was referring to. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the thing that just I do get frustrated at times when people talk about DT and him not as a dominant wide receiver as much. Look, if you look at that 4-year stretch, when he was with Peyton, you can say Peyton carried him or whatever, but like that 4-year stretch, 4 or 5 year stretch where, he was in his prime, there was no wide receiver aside from Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, that was the most productive in that span than Demaryius Thomas. I mean, he was lethal. And I think that the game is vividly in my brain, aside from like Super Bowl 48, because that was such a great depiction of who he was, playing till the very last whistle and to the end of the game. And I mean, he battled, at times criticism from fans, calling him soft at times. And I just thought that was so disrespectful because that's not at all who he was. He was playing through multiple different injuries. And, but like, and I think that when you look at it from the perspective, I think that Super Bowl 48 game was such a great depiction for him because he played to the final whistle. He broke the Super Bowl receptions record. And yeah, it was 43-8. It was an unfortunate game to watch, but that was one. But the game I wanted to talk about was probably one of the most dominant wide receiver games that will not be talked about in the vein of, the Calvin Johnsons or, any of those ones like that. But his game against the Arizona Cardinals, you will not find a better game by a wide receiver, than that game right there. Antonio Cromartie and Patrick Peterson, prime Patrick Peterson was trying to guard Demaryius Thomas, and they could not guard him at all. To the tune of 200 plus yards receiving. Like, he was cooking fools left and right. It didn't even matter who was guarding him.
I actually remember a 200-yard game he had, and I think was against the Raiders when they were back in Oakland. I think he had 207 or something like that. I remember watching that game too when it was to DT. But
obviously he had the record too in the 49ers game. Was it 509? So he's had a lot of really good memories, and it's gonna be exciting. I actually am gonna be going to that game, that Giants game. So it's gonna be fun to go to that game and get a chance to see him being honored, and Super Bowl 50, and so it's gonna be an emotional day for sure. That is a fact.
The fact that he is second all time in Broncos receiving touchdowns, behind only Rod Smith, and he only played with Peyton Manning for 4 years. You talk about someone carrying someone. He carried Tim Tebow. As much as I love Tim Tebow,
room at times,
as I love Tim Tebow, Tim Tebow's career in Denver would have been way shorter if he didn't have Demaryius Thomas.
This is a topic for a completely different day, and it is a what-if scenario, but I think Tim Tebow was before his time. And this is a bit of a hot take.
I like Tim Tebow.
This is a bit of a hot take in a sense, but you put him in this day and age of the NFL with running quarterbacks and how successful they could be. You give him with a quarterback or a coach that could be able to coach him up and actually throw the ball. He might be a top 10 quarterback in that league in the league if So I'm just saying, but anyway, it could never work out, and plus, they got paid. If Tim Tebow does not have the year that he has in 2011, which certainly was carried at times by a lot of that defense and Elvis Dumerville and a rookie Von Miller and a DJ Williams from the U. They don't have Peyton Manning at that point. They do not have Peyton Manning if it isn't for that 2011 season. So as we wrap up, obviously that was our last topic, but OTAs are this week. But what are some things that going forward and for this team, what are things you want to know going forward?
I mean, for me, I think we already touched on it. I want to know, if we sign J.K. Dobbins, what does that split look like? What does the running back room look like? And I'm with Jordan. I want to know who the wide receiver 2 is. But it's more of which wide receiver are we going to use as a wide receiver 2, and not which wide receiver is going to win the wide receiver 2 battle, because I don't know if that exists.
I want to know specifically within that wide receiver room, how is the progression and development of Troy Franklin going?
I mean, me and Jordan are somewhat in the same wavelength in a sense, and I think Brandon, you are too, in the sense that Franklin is the highest ceiling. He's got the highest ceiling of anybody. Pat Bryant, yes, Bryant and Franklin are probably the two players of the highest ceiling in that room, and if they're hitting, it's a completely different outlook.
Yep.
For that room, if Franklin can be able to hit. I think for me, I don't know if it's something I want to know, and I shared it on Twitter a couple days ago or yesterday. I have a sneaky suspicion that Caleb Lawner is going to get some playing time this year. And I think it's just going to probably more than likely be red zone opportunities. But I think that it's going to be one where I do think it's going to be one where there will be some certain packages to a certain degree, like he had at Utah, where he will be lined up out wide and he will box out a dude and he will probably get a touchdown this year.
I'll take that.
Because at that point, you're already surpassing expectations at that point. But.
Well, I mean, if that were to happen, his 2 touchdowns would be what the total last year of all the tight ends, or? So, I mean, I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, you did have the legendary tight end game against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
On National Tight End Day.
National Tight End Day.
But yeah, it's gonna be a fun thing to monitor, and we will certainly have you guys covered right here on the Manely Broncos podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button over there on YouTube. We are pushing and pushing and pushing to 2,000 subscribers. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on here for MHRT Network. Make sure you follow us over there on the X platform. That would be Brandon Miller, PO. You can also follow Jordan at Jordan T. Lopez. And you can also follow myself at Cameron Parker, PO. You can also follow the show handle as well at Manly Broncos. Sorry, we started a bit later. We had a bit of a mic malfunction. That would be my area of where it went wrong. That would be me. But yeah. So it's a great show. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back next week, and we might actually do a deeper dive positionally on some of on the Broncos roster and where things are, and maybe possibly what some of the expectations will be for those players. It was a great show. And as always, remember that in this time of this new season, we always are grateful.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my life.